Make sure everything's working.
Drop it in my question right now.
YouTube.com/
dropping some Matt knowledge.
Knowledge nuggets, baby. So I might actually do what I did on the Wood Whisperer and put like a permanent live page on the Wood Talk website, so that we can just kind of always push people to that live page instead of pushing people to YouTube.
What chat will you use?
The YouTube chat.
So just embed it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of live, dude,
you're
killing it.
Who?
Like, obviously, we're holding you back, Mark.
Well,
I don't know what made me check your Patreon page.
In
Like,
what
I think
regard?
you guys announced like a new milestone or something.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, let's click on that and see what that's about. Damn, you're making like $1,800 a month on that live show.
Is that what it is?
You know, Wood Talk can't even get to like $2,000. It's
'cause
the three of us together.
You guys suck,
okay.
man.
My
Apparently,
Patreon's like plateaued at $400. I'm not too worried
It's
about it.
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. It's the female factor.
it's gotta be.
It's got to be. I agree. Well, the whole Patreon thing, while the sort of push for it was the live show, it's really like a general Wood Whisperer thing. So I don't know if it's just that effect, or because I do think that the offcuts thing and the live stuff, Friday Live is actually the thing that pushes it, but it's definitely meant to be more of a general, like, you want to support what we do, this is a way to do it sort of thing. So maybe that's the reason. But I think honestly it comes down to boobs.
Yeah. Well, it's like I keep thinking, I should
Like
give in
that.
and do this, but then I'm like, no, everybody's got a Patreon thing.
Yep.
I'm just gonna be like that total jackass that showed up to the party 5 years late.
Dude, what did I just do?
Yeah,
I was that guy.
it just showed up.
Yeah.
I'm still that jackass.
I don't know if you caught into the undercurrent, but there was some hashtags coming out of Fine Woodworking Live.
Mm-mm.
There was obviously some talk amongst the people there, like probably bashing YouTubers.
Oh, really?
Because you know the people that went to that were very much the old guard, like
Oh, definitely the older
original-
school.
Yeah, the original social medias, Diami and his crowd. And so there's this ongoing joke about weekly updates, which I agree. I don't like weekly updates either, but don't hate the game, man. I have generated more business since I started a shop update weekly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of signups at the hand tool school, I can literally draw a line in the sand from when the shop update became a regular thing to just an increase in business. It's like a 300% increase. It's like
Yeah.
you can't deny that it's top of funnel and you're bringing more awareness into top of funnel. So yeah, I don't really like them either, but screw you guys. They're making me money.
Well, I mean, the thing with a weekly update is it's for the people who want to know what you're up to, you know, and it's not necessarily incredibly valuable content, but it's not treated that way either. You know, it's just
Mine's very valuable. Shut up.
you think so, but I mean, I don't know. It's
Mine's very valuable for Paul Seller people to come around and tell me all the things I'm doing wrong.
that's right.
I had one today. My mentor, Paul Sellers, says this is how you should do that. I'm like,
Did you sign up for that program?
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think I'll have to start. You're my mentor now.
So
My
a couple
mentor,
people in
Eric
the in,
Cartman, says,
My
"Shut up,
mentor, Shannon Rogers.
Shannon's always been my mentor.
My mentor is Eric Cartman.
I learned everything I know from him. So we have, I guess, a syncing issue with my voice in the video, but there's really nothing we can do about it. This until we figure out why streaming the Skype video causes everything to go haywire, there's nothing I can do. It's totally weird because I could stream no problem, 1080p HD video when I do Friday Live, but if I involve Skype, the computer goes. So it is what it is.
Not enough boobs. Not enough boobs.
Not enough boobs.
I'll tell you what though, my graphic and the way I've got the images split up on the live stream, actually, I think it looks pretty good.
Is everybody watching already?
No, there's 48 people, 49,
48 people.
and we got one thumbs down. You know what I'd like to tell that person? Piss off, piss off, whoever
I
you
hope
are.
They did already.
Actually, stick around and get make
thumbs down.
yourself crazy.
Need more boobs. Thumbs down.
That's right. There's no boobs there, just hairy
Wow, look
ones.
at that. Look at all these people in here.
I don't know why they're there.
Chatting it up.
Oh, we're supposed to do a show. That's why.
What?
Oh.
I was wondering what they're
I thought
doing
this
here.
was- I thought this was our monthly hangout.
Yeah, we were just like, hey
Yeah.
guys, what's going on?
Our defunct Patreon hangout.
Bought a lawnmower today. All right, so we're talking about trimming a frame flush to the top, selling your old tools, and we're missing one. Is that yours,
I'm there.
Matt?
Nope, I'm there.
Mine
I
was
was
Shannon.
there.
Come
Who
on.
deleted mine? Cremona?
Slacker.
I
Yeah, I think that's what
specifically
happened.
put it in there.
Cremona went in there and said, "Oh, I need room. delete.
Yeah, I need room for my topic.
I need room in that spreadsheet cell." We'll get it in there so we can start the show, yo.
Oh man.
Yeah, connection at work.
I really like to just put like still photos of us up and then just have the audio go through. How about that?
Fine.
Just do a montage of various action photos.
There's just really nothing to watch, is there?
I like looking at the background in Matt's. Like to see
Like
the.
that?
Yeah.
What's in my cup?
Broadcasting live from
Water.
the kiln.
Okay, let's do a show, you jerks.
Hey.
Talking about you two.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as I'm not talking about the
To be
audience.
clear. No,
That's all
I
right.
would never do that. That's something Shannon would say.
Welcome to Wood Talk, crafting artisanal sawdust since 2007. Now here are your hosts, Mark, Shannon, and Matt.
Nothing but the best artisanal sawdust. That's right. You heard it here first. Wood Talk number 377 for April 24th, 2017. On today's show, we're talking about trimming a frame flush to a top, 1,000 canker disease, and selling your old tools. Before we get to that, let's thank a few folks who helped us out, specifically on Patreon. That's patreon.com/woodtalk. We'd like to thank Niles Kretsch, John Soderviska. That's pretty good, right? I practiced that one too.
That's got to be accurate.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Email
Alicia
her.
Bramlett and Preston Norris. Thank you so much, folks, for helping us out. We appreciate the support. And if you want to help out too, have your name mentioned at the top of the show like that, just go to patreon.com/woodtalk. See all the different ways that you could help out and help support the show. Keep the things going. Someone even wrote in and said that you guys got to sell it harder, like a little bit more of a PBS style campaign, because they're on the fence. They really want to help, but they feel like they need to be guilted into it.
Oh my.
Okay, and here's what we're
Or
going to
they
do.
just want a tote bag.
Right. And look, here's what it comes down to. Cremona's son just had surgery.
Oh my god.
My,
Oh no. Oh no.
can I keep going with this? Because I think this is going to end up in a really good place.
We need some music for that.
Medical
Definitely.
bills are expensive. My wife was just in the hospital for 5 days, and guess what we found out? That the insurance isn't covering hardly any of it. So that's a problem. That's a problem. Shannon's dog, he likes greenies, and those are expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
I just got a $2,700 dental surgery bill that apparently insurance won't cover. So yeah.
Gotta love that stuff. So yeah, I mean we're clearly suffering here, folks, and the only way we can get out of this hole we've dug ourselves into, just by living our lives, is if you go to patreon.com/woodtalk.
Oh,
I love that. Just by living our life. Mark has to cut his own grass, for God's sake, people.
I had to cut my grass this week, and you realize how much work that is?
oh.
I'm from Arizona. I don't understand what grass is, and then I'm responsible for cutting
you
it.
had kids was to specifically. I don't care. Mateo can walk.
Right.
Tell him to push that thing.
But then he's going to injure himself, and then medical bills. We're full circle again.
Tell him to walk it off. Rub some dirt on it, kid.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We are very bad at guilting people. You know what? You want to help out? We love it. If you don't, we still enjoy the fact that you listen to the show. That's all we can ask. And you know what? Welcome back, Cremona. I don't mean to make a joke of your son. I'm glad to hear that he's,
You know, I just did.
even though I just did at your family's expense. But no, seriously, I followed along with everything. I'm glad he's doing well. I assume everybody's happy and healthy at this point.
Everyone's good. It was a rough day.
I can only
For
imagine.
sure. I think it was bad the whole time leading up to it was definitely that in the literature that whole the climax, the rising action to the climax.
Yeah.
The climax was the moment they take your child from you and bring you back for surgery. That was a bad one.
Man, the only thing I can compare it to is Mateo had ear tubes put in, very quick outpatient procedure, but it doesn't matter as a parent. Someone taking your child away to do a procedure and you have no influence other than just sitting in a waiting room. That's difficult. And for you guys, that's major surgery. So I'm just glad everything worked out.
Yeah, went great, and then happiest moment is when wheel him into his little room and you're sitting right there and he's up smiling and kicking
Back
and
to
stuff,
normal,
and,
right?
didn't even notice I've got someone cut a hole in my back and stuck a tube in me, and
Yeah.
I'm happy.
It's all good.
Ain't
Where's
no
my
thing.
goldfish?
I'm a Cremona.
That's right.
Walk it off.
Where's my logs, yo? Well, good, man. We're glad to have you back on the show. We really missed you last week. It was about 33% less hairy than usual.
It took you being gone for a week, Matt, for me to say, I love you, man.
Whoa,
Oh, man.
There it is.
Oh,
The moment you've been waiting for, Matt.
Sprung it on you.
Oh.
when my
Prepare you for
son's
that.
old enough, I can thank him for this moment.
There you go. Exactly. Fantastic. All right, so let's get into what's on the bench. Get into the meat and potatoes of the show. I am still working on my chair. Really not a whole lot to update on. I started cutting the legs, but the weekend is like all about house and family and yard work. And I don't get anything done on Mondays because it's like prep for the show. And next thing you know, we're recording. It's 2:00 and the day is pretty much over. So I haven't done anything new with it, but I do have the rear legs are what I'm working on now. Cut all the mortises while the pieces are nice and square and straight. And then I get to cut all the fun little curves out and see if this thing that I drew even looks remotely attractive in reality. We'll find out. I'll have to let you guys know. So that's really about it for me. What do you got going on, Shannon?
You guys ever you have like a go-to tool? It's like, this is a problem. Oh, it's going to be kind of difficult. I'll just grab this tool, and kind of you've either got a favorite chisel or plane or fancy multi-router, something like that.
Yeah, one of those.
I needed to shape a molding across some ingrain, and it was just a situation where none of my planes would work. It was difficult grain situation, needed to be handled really delicately. So I grabbed a scribing gouge. I've got a bunch of them. Some you may have heard of them as in-canal gouges. I've got a bunch of them floating around because there was a while there where I was looking for crank neck chisels, and I would get like on an eBay thing, I'd get a crank neck chisel and a lot of like 6 scribing gouges. You know, you'd pay the $12 to get the crank neck chisel and get a bunch of other stuff and kind of throw it in a toolbox. And I kind of always knew in-canal gouges / scribing gouges were pattern maker tools, but I never really paid them much credence because I never really had a need for it. Well, I grabbed this thing. I thought, this will help me cut across the end grain and help me essentially transfer the pattern that I have now.
Keep going.
That's awesome. Sergeant Slaughter and
That's for the chat
Piper.
room. Sorry, I didn't think it would interrupt you.
You can't throw a WWF cup up on.
Yeah, someone asked what was on my cup, and I just wanted to show it.
Anyway,
Nice.
This was a perfect opportunity to pull one of these things out, sharpen it, get it restored. Where have you been all my life? These things are awesome.
Yeah.
Pattern makers tools in general, talk about being able to create really, really precise models and things like that. They're just, I've got like 6 of them now that I need to go and sharpen up because I can't imagine where else I could use these things. They're just one of those great tools that's kind of multifunction. It really allows you to kind of fine tune a difficult spot. So yeah, I'm in love with Matt, but then also with my scribing gouges.
Scribing gouges and Shannon sitting in the tree.
Wow, that sounds
You know how the rest goes.
really pathetic.
Matt, what about you?
I had a pretty good week. You know what? I think I'm going to lead off here with a quick review of the Wood Whisperer thread taps because Mark doesn't want to sell them.
That's
And
right.
I
Do it
used
for me,
them last
please.
week for the first time.
Nice.
I have to say, those are pretty slick.
Yeah.
Like really slick. I can see people saying like,
Do you
know,
have
it
them in
doesn't-
metric?
no, Mark was too cheap to send me the metric ones.
I was too cheap to even send you the final version. You have like the prototypes. They're actually a slightly different dimension. So I'm glad you like them because they're going to get better.
Oh, you always got to interrupt me.
Sorry. It was Shannon's fault.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I had this whole thing rehearsed in my head, and now it's gone.
Okay, go ahead. Start over.
I can't. It's over. Anyway, no, I found them to be really slick and really easy to use, and just like it made like, sure you can use a regular metal tap to do the same thing, but I tell you what, the user experience on those things is like, I don't even know, like, so much higher than
Yeah,
using a metal
good.
tap.
So much gooder.
And okay, I'm talking, guys.
Okay, sorry.
Try to do it.
We just can't. We can't stop. That's the problem. We like to talk over you.
But we're seeing the evolution of Matt. He used to let us talk over him. Now he's just like, shut up.
Yeah, he's yelling at us when we do it.
Only
They
because
grow up
like
so
you're gonna
fast.
derail me so much, and then like all the things that I was planning on saying are not gonna get said. And when I be kicking myself afterwards, thinking I didn't say half the things I wanted.
You just have to learn to keep going. Like, just because we talk, you don't stop.
Achieve world domination in the tap market, and it's just all gonna go from there.
Seriously, Matt's trying to help you out here.
Okay,
man.
all right. I'll shut up. I have a banana. Should I just eat it? Should I eat my banana and shut up? Okay, go
As
ahead.
long as you don't try and eat it in
I
any
just
kind of
should.
like sensual way while I'm trying to talk about.
Well, I figure that would be one of the most
Dude, you had
disgusting
to say
things to
that.
listen to. Go ahead. Don't let me distract
By
you.
saying that he's going to do it now, right, Matt?
Yeah, I figured he would, so the chat room would be happy. At least.
I'm peeling it very slowly.
Oh man, look at you undressing that banana.
Look at that. Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
This is incredible.
And people said that woodworking would never work in audio format.
See?
They finally are right.
There you go. All right, go ahead. Okay, just
Banana
get on with the
peeling.
show here.
All right, so the other thing I want
What
to
did you
mention about
tap,
those,
Matt?
I tapped a half-inch hole for the bed to hold the rails to the posts, half-inch diameter, bolt or whatever, 13 threads per inch, and I went down over 2 inches, so I have 2 inches of threads in that post for that rail to connect to, and that's that might have been a little overkill, but I had the space to do it, and one of the advantages of those thread taps is you can get pretty deep, and even that, like, maybe that's like halfway to like the full depth that they can go, which is like
Really?
mind-bogglingly crazy.
Yeah.
And the first one I did, I was like, I'm so used to using like regular taps in the drill. I'm like, I gotta go all slow and kind of like ease into it all, whatever. Which is kind of true for a tap that size because you're removing a lot of material to cut those threads. But like as I got more comfortable with it, I'm like, zip, zip, zip.
Right, yeah. You realize you can go a
Yeah.
lot faster.
Yeah, you can go pretty fast. And the other nice thing about those taps that the Wood Whisperer taps is that they're like the bottoming taps. So you can tap all the way to the bottom of a blind hole. Whereas most of the taps you buy, like the hardware store, they're I think they're called plug taps, where like they won't cut threads all the way to the bottom.
Mhm.
So maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. In my case, it was kind of a nice little touch. But I have to
Don't
say
they
that like
usually have some
Hey,
sort of
hey,
taper
shh, hey,
to
he's
make it
talking.
easier to start or whatever.
yeah. they
So
have
what is
tape-
what's the toe or the start of the whisper tap like? Is it because that taper usually makes it easier to start straight, doesn't it?
Yeah, I didn't find there was so much of a difference though, because the Whisperer taps has a little bit of like a chamfer on the first thread, so it actually starts pretty easy and it starts following the hole. The other thing with the tapping in the wood is you're drilling, like I found out that Mark told me, like you drill a smaller diameter hole than you normally would for steel, so you're actually like there's not a whole lot of room for you to, like go off of the hole. You're really gonna
Right.
follow it. That thing's gonna follow that hole
It's
directly
true.
because you're just
Yeah, you're not going
you
to
really
go off
only
course.
have clearance for the shank and not the actual thread cutters.
If you
Right.
start with a crooked hole, you only have yourself to blame.
Yes.
Yes. You drilled
As
crooked.
always.
You idiot! Can't you drill straight?
Yeah, and that's kind of the premise behind the modification that we decided to make to undersize things a little bit because, you know, when you're talking about metal into wood, the game is different. And if you just follow the same dimensions that are normally intended for like metal to metal or plastics, you're sort of just leaving too much room there. So we can actually leave more wood into the hole and in the threads, and the whole thing just becomes a little bit more stronger and secure. At least, you know, it's kind of what we're banking on at this point.
I ran into that when I made that tool rest a couple weeks ago. The depth thing was a real issue. Like I could barely get an inch deep before. Well, first of all, it was really clogging up on me. It was constantly like half a turn and then backing it out. But you're right, Matt. The first of all, it wouldn't go all the way to the bottom. So like I had to the pilot hole ended up having to be like a half inch longer just to get the depth of thread I wanted. But then like the tap itself actually swells into the shank. So maybe I just had crappy taps. I don't know. I picked them up at Lowe's or something.
Crappy tappies.
So you crappy tap. So yeah, once you get past the threads, you're kind of SOL. You can't go any deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's good to hear, man. And this is for the bed project, right?
Yep.
So big. I mean, that's the thing. You've got the best case scenario for tapping threads in a wood situation. The bigger the bolt, the deeper the hole, the stronger the whole thing's going to be. So you kind of gave it its best possible scenario, which is good.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is like there's no exposed hardware from the outside. So like most bed bolts, you have to have a hole that goes through, or the bolt goes through the leg. You can see from the outside. I didn't really want that. I think that would kind of ruin the look I was going for. So it's totally invisible and it's all on the inside and it's not going to go anywhere.
Nice.
I have to say though that I had the ledger where the the mattress support boards sit on. I tap the holes for the bolts that hold that to the rails, and I use the Core 20 tap for that. That thing is a joke after you use the half-inch tap.
Yeah.
You're like, what is this dinky little thing?
Oh yeah, it's
on
so
the end of this
tiny, right?
drill? It's so tiny.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it. It doesn't look like it's a 1/4 inch, but it actually is.
And that one, you're like, it's like no resistance. You just go right in, no
Yeah.
problem, as fast as you want. It was, I was actually having fun. Like, I enjoyed tapping holes in the sawmill project. I actually enjoyed that process. I found it pretty therapeutic. I enjoyed tapping threads and wood with these things. It was just fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh look, instant hole.
Yeah.
I think mostly because I know how much work it is to tap steel.
Right.
And like,
It's
I'm like,
totally
this
different
is-
in wood.
This is a joke.
Yeah. It can't be this easy, you know. Yeah, it's cool,
Well,
man.
the bed came out great. It's very Flintstone-esque.
Yeah,
That's what
isn't
it
it?
makes me think of.
It does have like kind of that chunky kind of feel. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Like, it was definitely like a experimentation project for me, and I didn't have any idea. Like, I had a very small idea of how it would turn out in the end, but I really let the wood kind of decide the overall design and the final thing and all that. And over the weekend, it was at the Northern Wood Show, which is a show put on by the Minnesota Woodworkers Guild. It was on display there for 4 days. Yeah, 4 days. And a lot of people stopped by that like might like follow me on social media or something. They're like, "Oh, I saw your bed. It looks awesome in person," and it was really cool to hear that from people. That people actually went there to see it. Like, that was their goal, was to see that bed.
Was it in the mall?
Yeah, just in the mall, like in the atrium, like
Yeah.
a couple of the hallways all meet together.
You sure they weren't just
they
there
were-
for the Orange Julius?
I was gonna say they were going to
Might
Sam
have
Goody anyway. So.
Oh, love it. That's like, what the, hold on, let me Google Sam Goody. Hold on.
What is this?
Records? Okay, let me Google records. Well, that's awesome, man. I saw some of the pictures, and I guess you and was what's his name? Charlie. Was he there as well? Because I think I saw he was posting some stuff on Instagram too.
Yeah, he did a picture frame and mat out of wood. So he had
Okay.
a picture, then it's the matting out of I forgot what it was, but it was some really straight grain clear stuff, and then he had like, I think it was a peely frame around that with some kind of, I think it was ebony inlay or something. But that was a really cool thing. Charlie is actually the one who organizes the whole show.
Really?
So a big like, I can't imagine organizing that. He's the chairman of that whole like committee that does that show, and it's a lot of stuff to pull off. He did a great job. He does a great job every year, and this year is definitely no different. So thank you,
Cool.
Charlie, for all
Yeah,
that.
that's great. I mean, it seems like even just getting that venue to be okay with doing something like that has to be, kind of difficult.
Yeah, well, they've been there for 3 or 4 years now, and
Wow.
it's been really good. Although I found out that they don't allow video
Oh, okay.
pictures at the show.
Really?
So, yeah.
What's the point of
yeah,
that?
I think I went in a little hard this year with my actual camera, and like I took it out right away, and security was like, "Nope." So I was there
That's
on
weird.
Sunday with my cell phone. Everyone else was taking pictures on their phones. I'm like, "All right,
Here we
I'm on
go.
the phone." So I didn't get as much good footage as I had hoped for. I was like, "Oh, I'll bring my tripod, I'll do a little video, and like talk about it." Nah, nope. So that's all right. We'll see.
You tell the security guard, but it's my piece.
I even said that. I'm like, I'm just taking pictures of the stuff in the show. I'm in the show. Like, doesn't matter.
Wow.
Get permission ahead of time. But so that was a fun little weekend. I don't
Cool.
know. I
Sounds
definitely
good.
would recommend if anyone has the opportunity to submit your work into a show like that. It's a fantastic experience, especially if you have the opportunity to have a show where it's actually judged, like this one was. You can elect to have your piece judged. It's really interesting to get some. Let's go with like honest criticism, or something along those lines, because you don't usually get that like from that other person's viewpoint that is like an actual like established, I don't know, woodworker person. that has,
established human beings.
What is that word? What's that? Oh, vetted. Vetted.
Oh, yes, our favorite word.
We know all about vetting.
Oh, that's great. Great experience. Definitely check it out if there's anyone has a show in their area, they want to submit something to their show. It's fun.
Nice. So hold up. So what kind of feedback did you get?
Yeah, seriously.
I have the sheets. They're upstairs. It wasn't anything too spectacular. One guy said the footboard felt a little high. And then the compliments were, good job on the thick stock glue up for legs. That's usually pretty difficult. Looks pretty good.
That's boring. I was expecting
Yeah.
someone to be like, "This sucks.
Sorry.
This is
We
just
set that
terrible."
up and just failed to deliver, Matt. That was...
You know what? I didn't say I personally had experience with good feedback.
Oh, I
I
see.
said there's the
Backpedal,
opportunity
backpedal.
for it.
Right, there you go.
He's got a point, though. I mean, the way for a while, like the internet was the Wild West, and now I think we've gained a little bit of decorum, and now everybody's even afraid to offer feedback. So now it's like, oh, that looks great, because they don't even want to say I would do this, because then they're afraid that they'll get jumped on for trolling or whatever. So yeah,
Well, that's the problem. It's this like
feedback is good.
dichotomy of like BS feedback, like the pat on the back kind of thing, and then the people who are just plain a-holes. And that seems like
Yeah.
there's no middle ground with that anymore. It's weird.
That's true.
All right, let's get into what's new. Got some stuff to share with you here. So Brandon wrote in. He says, "Hey, Mark, Matt, and Shannon. Sorry, Shannon, I just can't get the pre-Mona intro out of my brain. Between suffering through Sunday with a migraine and between naps, I stumbled upon a YouTube channel labeled simply Dorian Brock, or Brocht. So we'll put that link in the notes for you guys. It's just a guy doing some crazy, complicated joinery for no other reason than to do some crazy, complicated joinery. I thought you guys might find it entertaining. For me, just another reason to say, I'm not worthy. Love the show. Keep up the shenanigans. P.S. I'm still curious to know how vinegar pie tastes. So am I. Still haven't
I'm not
tasted it.
curious.
I am.
No curiosity.
I hope it's tart and delicious.
Have you guys checked out that channel before?
Tart and delicious? No, I don't. I'm not allowed to watch that anymore.
Well, that's on that's on RedTube, I think. not
Oh, okay.
YouTube Red.
Oh,
No,
Speaking
he's
of
right. It's a
shenanigans.
very good channel. There's some cool stuff on there.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah, I should have previewed it before talking about it, but I did not. I trusted Brandon is what that's about.
I see.
Mhm.
Well, speaking of not vetting something before the show, I'm quickly trying to pull up the link, and I'm about to.
I
talk
saw
about.
this one. I could tell you what it's about.
Oh wait, yeah, okay, I did see
Yeah.
this. Okay,
I shared that on Facebook.
this was this is from Renee. Yeah, he says, "What I like to call the slab bender." This is what is the Sovereign Hill Museum?
Yes. It's in
So, Living
Australia,
History
right?
Museum in the wheelwright shop, and these guys are doing bends, timber bends, steam bending. But this is not steam bending like you think with a nice little happy Windsor chair bow. This is like a 4x4 bent basically back on itself, and imagine making a wheel and bending it completely around itself. It's pretty impressive, but it's cool because it's a you think Living History Museum, and I immediately go to like Williamsburg, like pre-industrial age. This is Defiance machine from the 1890s, so very much in that kind of cool steampunk era, like where my Barnes lathe comes from. So machinery was good, machinery is great, let's bend stuff, big stuff. It's worth checking out. I've actually been to a couple customers, like chair making customers we sell to, that use like the modern equivalents of this, like some of the modern steam bending stuff, and it's just ridiculous. Like you see them pull out this 4/4, 8/4 board, just stick it in this press, and 900,000 newtons of force comes down on top of it, and it's just kind of, okay, there's your bent chair back. Well, aren't you going to steam it first? Steam? What's that? No, we're just going to apply enough pressure and enough support. If you've got the exact form supporting everything, and they put like they do this in this video too, where there's some sort of like a form they put on top of it that provides full support on the outside of the curb where the fibers might split. And it's the same thing today, but they don't even bother with the steam. They just throw it in the press and go to town. It's
Crazy.
sweet.
It just looks like it shouldn't be possible at that
Right.
thickness. No matter how long you steam it, it should not be possible. It should just break, but it doesn't. It's pretty awesome. I watched it and I was
Slabbergasted.
yeah. Yes.
all right. Go ahead, Matt. I'm going to eat my banana now.
All right, you eat your banana.
Don't get too excited.
Too late. All right.
Oh boy.
Oh, we have a good vibe going today. All right. This next one is from Andrew. I was sent this news story from a friend of mine. I know Mr. Corona may have heard of this already, being is in his neck of the woods. The stories like this reminds me how awesome the woodworking community is. This is a tool library where they just opened it, I think it was like a year ago or something, and like they were planning on having like having to take donations for at least a year, but one guy donated like all the tools they could ever need. It's a really good story. Him and his wife had to move into assisted living, so they couldn't keep all of his stuff there. So he donated all his tools to the shop, and he actually goes there, I think, pretty much every day, and he's helping out with the people that are there building things on the tools that he used to use. So it's a really, really great story. And I know we talk a lot about, or we've spoken about like maker spaces before, but tool libraries is another kind of unique thing that beginners might have access to. If they don't have their own tools, they can actually check tools out of the library and use them at home if they need to do that too. So another option for beginners, I guess.
Nice. Cool. Can't beat that. Okay, you got some kickback here. Shannon, did you want to take that first one or?
Sure.
Okay, and I'll take the next set.
This is from Brandon. No, sorry, it's from Charlie. He says, these toggle bolts are the only way to go. Why aren't they all made this way? He's referring to my track lighting installation and my toggle bolt saga. And it is funny because I've gotten a number of comments like this across social media about, you should try this toggle bolt or this toggle bolt. And everyone's right. Like, there are so many better designs for toggle bolts and drywall anchors than what they sell standard with track lighting, or with probably most stuff that comes with the toggle bolt or whatever. So I don't know. I guess the manufacturers are still too cheap to use the good quality stuff. And I guess I was too cheap to sacrifice the stuff that came with it and go buy something new. So anyway, he included an Amazon link to Toggler Snap Toggle is what it's called. And there's a couple of designs like this, but he's right. It's so much easier. It allows one person, you don't have to have 6 hands to install the stuff.
What makes them better? What's the deal with those?
Because they actually snap into place, and you can, because the big issue was with the toggle, you have to thread it through the track first because the toggle's got to be the other side of the track. This actually will go into the ceiling, and then you can actually hold the track in place and then set the bolt through. Whereas you actually had to thread the toggle onto the bolt. So it has to be threaded through the track, and then you have to snap the toggles up through the ceiling. Well, the track only bends so much. So depending on how close the mounting hole is to the connection, sometimes it doesn't actually bend enough, flex enough to actually get the toggle bolt into place. This actually will slot up into the ceiling, and then it's got one of those like threaded things. You've seen those drywall anchors that actually you screw into the wall and it actually threads into the drywall. This has that at the bottom of it. So you're actually installing the whole toggle assembly into the ceiling first, and then just screwing in almost like you put a threaded insert in or something like that. But it's also got a toggle on top of it that tightens down for greater surface area support on the backside.
Nice.
Click on the link, you'll see it. It's kind of obvious when you look at it. It's also kind of like, why don't they make this now? Why do these?
Why are they all like this? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like going to the hardware store and buying snub pointed screws instead of pointed screws. What is it? The 1800s? Come on.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that clarification. All right. So we've got 2 other pieces of feedback. This was in reference to something not everyone heard. This was from the email extra. Shannon and I were having a discussion about lighting and his preference for sort of a darker lit situation with just focused lighting on what he's doing, and my preference for a very light and bright environment. So we threw that out to everyone and said, hey, do you have an opinion on this? We'd be curious to hear what you like and what kind of tools you use. So Jeff Thomas wrote in, he says, let there be light on my work surface. I'm a hand tool guy and like my space well lit, which is not difficult in my diminutive shop. As for the getting high thing, I forgot about that. Was bad, by the way.
Yeah.
That was really bad. The music was way too loud. I couldn't get it any quieter in the editing. So people who had to sit through that, my apologies. We played a song in the background through the whole show, and it just was not a smart idea. So anyways, James Wright.
It was fun at the time.
It was fun at the time. We had a good time. That's really all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
James Wright wrote in and says, for video, all lights on. For me, focus the lighting, keep it no more than needed, put on the soothing music, all hand tools. So that's James Wright from Wood by Wright.
Yeah, that's the Barry White style of work.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Have a glass of wine, sit there and romance yourself. All right. Eat a banana any way you want, from the bottom up, top down, whatever it takes.
Oh, boy.
All right. You're disgusting, Matt. You disgust me. Let's get to something wholesome now.
See how boring the show was last week?
It
All
was
these
totally
banana jokes.
Totally boring. Speaking of boring,
Shannon's Lumber Industry Update.
all right, what you got, Shannon?
More bad news, I'm afraid.
Wah, wah.
We have no one to blame but ourselves for this one. A new tariff has been passed on import plywood, specifically Chinese plywood. Now, you may be thinking, I don't buy that Chinese crap. You might be surprised. You might actually be buying Chinese crap plywood. Because the fact of the matter is, Chinese plywood, a lot of it is still crap, but they've actually gotten a heck of a lot better. See, when the Chinese first entered the market, it was like, well, we're going to set the market and try to make like a $20 panel. And they did. And everybody freaked out because it's suddenly really, really cheap. And then they realized, wow, this is total crap. So then the Chinese said, well, we can make it better. What's the price point you want us to hit? So slowly but surely, the import plywood has been getting a lot better. Now, you can still go to Home Depot and buy the worst panels on the planet from China, but you might be surprised that some of that quality plywood you're buying, air quotes for those that are watching the video, the quality plywood might actually be import and might actually be from China. You can find $50, $55, even $60 panels coming out of Chinese mills. So when I say there is a tariff of an additional 10% on Chinese plywood, don't dismiss it, because you may find that all your plywood is going to start going up 10%. Technically, it's 9.89%. Thank you, U.S. Department of Commerce. But here's the issue. There are certain Chinese mills that basically just thumb their noses at the U.S. Department of Commerce and says, nah, we're not going to participate in this. So the U.S. Department of Commerce said, well, screw you guys. And they threw a 111% tariff on top of those mills.
Oh, baby.
So some of this plywood is significantly more expensive. Now, let's be real. Those mills probably weren't terribly big to begin with. Most of your larger importers are probably not doing business with them. But there is next month in May coming a countervailing tariff from the U.S. Department of Commerce that will probably put another 50 to 60% tariff on import plywood. So yeah, we did this 4 years ago, and plywood prices went through the roof, both import and domestic, because I compare it to the gas station thing. The gas station across the street raises their prices, so the one directly across from him raises his prices because, he's slightly under. He's 0.7 of a cent underneath, but he's still cheaper. We saw the same thing happen. The domestic producers raised their prices kind of to keep the difference the same. So if they had a gap of $20, they kept the gap $20. So if the Chinese plywood went up 10, all the domestic guys went up 10 to keep that market gap the same. So we expect to see that happen. We expect to see plywood increase all across the board. But the scary thing is most people saw this coming. And because the tariff is retroactive for 90 days, people just stopped buying like at the beginning of the year. And they've been rationing out their current stock, waiting to see what's going to happen with the tariff in May. Well, the problem is there's this huge buying gap going on, and plywood, it grows faster than trees, granted. But if you haven't been buying for 3 months and now suddenly you running out of inventory and you've got to buy at the new stock price, there's going to be shortages in the supply demand chain. So the price is going to go up even further. So yay, more good news. Plywood's going to get expensive. So yeah, you might want to buy
solid wood. Only solid wood.
Yeah, there we go. Get
Here's your
yourself
solution.
a capo slab.
Right. I don't have it queued up, so don't even try
There
it.
we go. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens in May. We really have no idea where the tariff's going to come down. At the same time, 4 months after the tariff was passed 4 years ago, it got voted down by the International Trade Commission, because what they say is, well, you may think you're protecting American producers by in putting a tariff on foreign producers, but what you're doing is just making it cheaper for people in Europe to build the same kitchen cabinets and ship them abroad. And now cabinet shops in the U.S. are going out of business because it's actually cheaper to buy cabinets in France or Germany than it is in the U.S. It's all just
Isn't that
stupid.
like the trick with economics? Like there's never
Yeah.
anything that exists in a vacuum. Every little change, you go, oh, that looks like a really good idea. And then you're not thinking 2 or 3 steps down the line, something that's going to bite you in the butt.
Yeah, it's a special kind of economics. It's anyone, something DOO economics.
Voodoo economics. All right. That's great. Okay, let's get into what do we have here? Our voicemail. So Barry left us a voicemail that just makes me uncomfortable to listen to, but you'll hear why.
Hey, Mark, Matt, and Shannon. I am going to speak in an accent because you said on episode 371 that is the most guaranteed way to get on the show. So here goes. Now, fellers, I got me here a question because I'm wanting to see about getting me a new sander. I got me one of them little 5-inch round random orbit thingers, and it's on them oranges. I don't need to tell you the brand because, well, it's orange. But I've been reading about them Rotex sanders by that Festool brand, and I just wondered, are they magical like unicorns and everything like you read on them forums and like them people on the YouTubes will say they is? Now, Shannon, I know you don't use no sandpaper because you use them fancy shiny metal tools, and what sandpaper is sometimes that question you ask, but I guess this is really then for Mark and Matt. What y'all think? Is them Rotex one of them good things? Is them Rotex going to make my sanding life easier and make me a happy man? Or am I just going to spend a bunch of money and get this green thing? It's just going to sand just like my orange thing. So I hope y'all will answer my question, and I hope that accent got me on there. And if it don't, well, I hope y'all enjoyed it anyway. And now that I have insulted everyone in the Appalachian region, where I actually am from and live, I think I'm done. And I'm not giving my name or anything else because, well, I don't want death threats. You know how that goes. Thanks.
All right. So too bad his name was in the Skype message. Like, I know what his name was. I think I said it already, Barry. I won't give your last name, Barry, though. You'll remain anonymous.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So what are we talking about here? I had to listen to it like 3 times before I actually heard the question.
They're like unicorns that if you pull the dust collection hose off, the dust is actually rainbow colored.
That's right. Yes.
There is that.
It's more expensive dust. All right, so the Rotex, I mean, I'm a little bit bullish on the position of the Rotex in the market. I don't think most people need it. I think if you're doing a lot of rough stock and maybe refinishing projects, that's where I find that I use mine. If I've got to, tear down a whole bunch of poly off of a surface, that's a great way to do it. Think of it like a belt sander that you got a little bit more control over. And when you put a low grit on that thing, holy smokes, can seriously eat through some wood. The problem with the Rotex, I find, is its balance. So that by the time you get to your higher grits and trying to use that as your primary sander, especially if you're not doing refinishing all the time, for me, I'm doing mostly finish sanding. And that process with the Rotex is cumbersome. I don't enjoy it. I like a very centered, balanced sander that's balanced on its own, whether I hold it or not. And then I just have to kind of position it and move it around. So I'm not a fan of it as a general sander for most people. But if you have something where you do have a lot of heavy-duty work that you might normally use a belt sander with, I think it's one of the best ways to aggressively remove material.
Well, now, if you were, because he asked specifically about the Rotex, but then he kind of was comparing against the orange thingy, which, I think if you were to look at one of the ETS models, isn't that what they are? The smaller ones, 125 or whatever. If you were to put that out there, what would you say?
Well, that's the thing, because the Rotex is the thing that you look at in the market and you go, okay, it's different. This one is clearly doing something the other sanders aren't doing. The cell for most people is going to be a little harder for the ETS because it's the same format. It does the same thing. And one might make the argument that there's less vibration, that maybe, I don't know, the dust collection on it is going to be better. There's arguments to be made, but they're not nearly as strong as a fully functional difference between what one sander can do and what the other can do. So if you want those features, then the Rotex might be, the only game in town, and you'll be happy with it. But I would say yes.
Rotex was as close as I got to power carving. That thing was pretty sick.
It's hardcore.
You put like a 40 grit paper on it and put it on the orbital, the non-orbital mode, whatever that's called, rotary mode, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's what I imagine that power carver thing is that scares you that you have, Mark.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The what is it? The Lancelot chain.
That's what it was.
Thingamajiggy.
Yeah. I always found the dust collection to be just a little bit better on the Festool, whether it's Rotex or ETS or anything like that. There's no question their dust extraction is pretty amazing, because that's the thing that I hate the most about sanding. I hate that fine dust. It gets everywhere. Yeah. And man, you just don't see it with the Festool. But I also haven't tried another sander in many, many years, so they may have caught up and figured it out.
Could be. Matt, what do you think? Have you used the Rotex before?
I've held it at like shows, but I do have the Triton Gyros, which is like kind of the same thing. And I have to agree with you, Mark. It's always, even before I had that thing, I kind of had that same kind of feeling that, like, I knew that it probably wasn't the best suited for, like, finish sanding or getting up there in the grits. Just the balance is just not really something I find comfortable. So, but like, for like your first grit, like if you have some tear outs you gotta get rid of, or your planer knives are a little dull and you have kind of a rough surface or whatever, mill marks, your first pass with your sander for that kind of thing, it goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really a two-handed tool. I mean, they've got that little auxiliary handle that screws into the side, and it's a lot more comfortable to use when you put that handle in place. But yeah, I don't really see myself with 220 grit paper and two-handed, like, barreling down on it.
The hard thing about that too is like if you lose the balance at all and like it tips a little bit, then you get some serious scratches that you gotta spend some time getting rid of those things again.
Yeah, and that's fine on the lower grits when you're working your way up, but not when you're on your higher grits. You don't want that. And they always say to throw the vacuum hose over your shoulder, and that just kind of gives it a built-in counterbalance. And it's like, oh, that's great, but I don't want to have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. That it works that way.
The marketing department spinning right there.
Yeah, like that's not a feature. You know? So I looked up this Triton thing. I thought you said Triton Euros, and I'm like looking up, trying to find some Greek food made by Triton. So is it this TGEOS thing?
Yeah, the Gyros, gear-driven orbital sander.
And they want you to actually pronounce it Gyros?
I don't know.
You're just making crap up.
I just say it.
You just took their money and run, didn't you? That's all right. All right, Mark, you're off the hook.
Oh, man.
Yay!
Matt's on the spot with his Triton money.
That's right. What a sellout. Haven't done that in a while. Oh, that's what we should have our voice guy do, is a clip of doing the sellout line. Oh, that'd be perfect. I'm going to have to call him. Find out if he can do one for us. All right, so if you want to leave us a voicemail like that anonymous guy making fun of Appalachian people, the peoples up that way, leave a voicemail on Skype. And our username there is Woodtalk Online, and we will gladly play it on the show, or do like he did and actually record it on your phone and just send us the file. And that actually has the best quality of all. Okay, what do you say we get into emails? Okay. This one here is from Rob. He says, I'm finally gluing up my coffee tabletop, which has a plywood center panel in a 2-inch hardwood mitered frame. I've deliberately left the hardwood slightly thicker than the plywood, about a 64th, 32nd of an inch. Do you have any tips or tricks for leveling the hardwood with the plywood that minimizes the risk of cutting through the veneer? And obviously that's a big problem. Now, normally, it's not that much of a...
Scribing gouge.
Oh, what now?
A scribing gouge.
Okay, that sounds fun. Yeah. If you normally have like a very thin trim, like a 1/4-inch trim on a piece of plywood, it's a lot easier, right? Because it's mostly, you could reference from the plywood surface. You don't have that much hardwood to remove. In this case, 2 inches, that's going to be a little bit more of a headache, because whatever you do to remove it, you also run the risk of taking your top out of flat. It's very easy to like round it over or make some kind of a bevel, and just, it can be messy, or worst case scenario, you burn through your veneer on the tabletop. So I think how I would approach that is I would probably take a plane, maybe even a block plane, doesn't have to be really big, and I would carefully, with the plane starting, mostly on the plywood side, push outward on a nice, pretty significant angle. So you're just slowly working down that edge, and you got to take a super, super light cut, because you just want to remove the bulk of the stock and just make sure you're not in any position where that block plane can actually tear into your veneers. It's probably going to take a little finesse to do this, but ultimately you just want to get as much as you safely can down, and then I would say switch to a card scraper, because with a card scraper you can keep most of the card scraper on the plywood and put a little bit of blue tape on that side, so whatever's touching the veneer is protected by tape, and then just kind of work it down so it stays nice and flush, and then once you get down, even down to you're basically only going to be able to feel the difference with your finger by that time. Then you can give it a light sanding, and it should come out nice and flush. But really take your time with it, because there's just too many ways that you could jack that up if you're not careful. You guys have any other better ideas than that?
No, it's good. I like it.
Thank you. Shannon approved. Ding!
Involved planes.
I like that. I've one-upped. Achievement unlocked.
Oh, man. All right, this next one is from Rob. says, when replacing / upgrading a table saw in your shop, how much should you look to get for the one you're replacing? Should you let it go from bottom dollar or hold up for more? If you're selling, what's your goal? I'm asking in general, but specifically, I'm replacing a Delta contractor saw outfitted with a 52-inch Biesmeyer fence and mobile base. So, in case anyone's looking for a Delta contractor saw with a 52-inch fence, give Rob a call.
He's your man.
There you go. You get some free advertising.
That was
for
crafty, Rob. Very crafty.
Nicely done.
So, like I've sold a lot of tools in my life. I've definitely taken the upgrade path as I've acquired my tools, and my general like formula, if I have one, is if I bought the tool brand new, I usually list it around 60 to 80% of that value. If it's gonna be on Craigslist because there's always some haggle room, someone wants to talk you down or whatever. So maybe closer to 80. If I bought it used, I list it for at least the price I paid for it, if not more. And usually I end up getting more. So, I don't know.
I hate selling tools.
Yeah, me too.
I hate selling anything. Like I'm trying to sell
And
that.
I tend to get people a real deal because I'm just like, get it
get
out
it.
of here.
That's how I am. Yeah, I go for bottom dollar because I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
People coming to my house, looking at my stuff. You know how it is. It's terrible.
Eat your bananas.
Eat my bananas. All right, are we done? No. Shannon's up.
No, not
Sure.
quite. I got a question from Mr. Drow. He says, I've been offered some wood from a walnut tree here locally that is dying from thousand canker disease. From what I can tell, the beetles and fungus only affect the sapwood on the outside, which still leaves the dark hardwood intact. I'm wondering, though, if I'm taking a risk by bringing this anywhere near my shop, since it may or may not have those beetles in it. Is this a valid concern with this type of thing, or will it be okay to transport it to my house and then have it milled into slabs? It's a little tricky, Mr. Drow, but you are right. The infection, the thousand canker disease, for those that don't know, it's a combination. It's incredibly infectious, and it's basically touched coast to coast. Hasn't hit all 50 states, but it's pretty dang close. It's a combination of a beetle and a fungus. The beetles actually bore into the wood, and in doing so actually infect the walnut with a fungus. So it's very fast acting. You can imagine, instead of just the beetle eating it alive, the fungus is also rotting it away at the same time. And it's really wiping out the walnut, specifically just walnut, or specifically that genus, the Juglans genus. So like butternut is also susceptible. The various species of walnuts, black walnuts and things like that are all affected. But the beetle really does not move beyond the bark and the cambium layers. The sapwood possibly, but even a lot of people, and it's interesting because I was just talking to a sawmill owner last week about this, and he's not finding them in the sapwood either. What it really comes down to is all the sugary sweet stuff is in the bark and the cambium. There may be a little bit in the sapwood, but again, it depends on when the tree was felled and whether or not the sap was rising. The problem is it's highly infectious, and the bark and everything that has the stuff in it, you can't chip it up. And that's what a lot of municipalities are doing. Well, first of all, they're chipping the entire tree. But even if you strip the bark off, you have to burn it. Chipping it still leaves mulch, and these beetles are really small. And the fungus, of course, is really small. And the beetles can actually still continue to bore into like the mulch bark and things like that. So he says it's local. You need to check, and I would actually recommend going to, I think it's thousandcankerdisease.com. And there's actual affected maps, and that you can drill down into local county level to see where quarantines exist. If it's just kind of down the street, you're probably okay because the infection's probably in your neighborhood already anyway. But it's one of those things you got to be really careful. You need to get that bark off as soon as possible, and you need to burn that bark. And then to be safe, when you mill that lumber, you should be okay in the heartwood, but you probably want to kiln dry it. You want to get it heat treated. You can air dry it. You might be okay, but is it worth the risk? You know, they're saying at this point that the bug is not transferring into other species. At least they're not finding it in other species, but it might be one of those situations where, you know, it's not like the bug is like, ooh, I only like walnut. You know, if it's sitting next to a stack of oak, is it not going to jump to the oak? I don't know. You ask the bug, see what he answers, see what he says. So, you know, you want to be careful here. I do think you're okay getting the wood, just get it kiln dried. build a kiln yourself if you need to. Just don't burn your house in doing that. So yeah, that's the thing. It is one of those things where Thousand Canker, Emerald Ash Borer, Powder Post, they're all instances where technically the heartwood should be okay. And what we're finding, guys like Matt can actually make a killing on this because the municipalities just are chipping it up. Well, which is actually spreading. In this case, it's spreading it even more. But they don't want to deal with it because they don't have a sawmill close by. And because there's a quarantine in place, it's not like they can load it on a truck and ship it off somewhere. So what they're looking for, if there's a guy that will come to them and mill it, you can get wood for free like crazy. Otherwise, it's going to get chipped up and it'll be gone. You know, that's why people are now calling ash the next American chestnut. Within 5 to 10 years, ash will be gone because they're just cutting it down and shredding it. And, you know, there's nothing in the heartwood, but they don't know any better, and there's nobody to come and saw it up for them. So moral of the story is go to Matt Cremona's YouTube channel, build a band sawmill, put it on wheels, hook it up to an RV, right? Mystery machine on the side, and solve mysteries and saw lumber all at the same time. Make sure I have a Great Dane too. Zoinks!
Would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you darn kids.
Just sold Mr. Smithers runs the carnival.
Right. All right. Well, you know what? We have an extra show that happens after this one. And if you're interested in hearing that, just go to patreon.com/woodtalk and sign up for the $4 or higher level. And it's our way of saying thank you. You get a little bit of extra
help our
content.
medical situations.
That's right. I mean, we're really in a dire situation here, folks. And if that doesn't make you feel guilty, you're heartless.
Oh.
So I love it. All right. And let's see. The topic today we're going to talk about is getting over the fear of woodworking with precious wood species. So that should be interesting. Precious, my precious. All right. So if you want to support the show, of course, you can do that at Patreon. Patreon.com/woodtalk. You can get a Woodtalk t-shirt at twwstore.com, or you could leave us a review in the iTunes store. It costs you nothing but a couple of seconds of your time to go and give us a nice review there. And Shannon, how about you give them the contact info and we'll get out of here.
Absolutely. If you want to find out all the things that Matt can tap, if Matt could tap wood, you can do that on Skype. Thank you for that, Matt. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Anytime.
I love you more now. Much more than Mark. Our username on Skype is WoodTalk Online. Our voicemail is 623-242-5180, or just go to woodtalkshow.com/contact and leave us a comment there, or leave us a question there, or whatever. Just send us all the things you could tap. And that should do it for the show. You can support us all kinds of ways, but you can go to thewoodwhisperer.com, renaissancewoodworker.com, or itapthat.com.
Hey-o! Nice. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
That's going to be the show title, too. Matt would tap that.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, boy.
It's obvious
Tappity tap, tap, tap.
and
Oh,
perfect.
he was talking about tapping stuff and going down on it, so I just left it alone. I didn't.
Yeah,
He said-
I always said it, didn't I?
Usually, if you only go in 1 inch, let you finish that thought for yourselves. All right, so let's do our typical thing where we do the weekend show first, and then we'll come. We'll circle back, kill the live stream, and do the email extra. Man, my back itches. Oh, I'm scratching it with a piece of hardboard. It feels
I
good.
should have used that banana.
I should to scratch my back. That would be messy.
Moisturizing. You're itchy because you're in that dry Colorado air,
They call me banana.
which is
back.
actually like jungle weather for you, isn't it?
No, it's actually drier here. At least so far, the winter and early spring has been drier in Colorado than it ever was in Arizona, which is kind of nuts.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy, man.
Stuff's gonna burn.
All right. So what are we talking about? Oh, joining guilds.
Just a tip and only for a minute.
Oh, easy there, easy, Cremona,
Hey, I'm just reading from the chat room.
with
all right?
your young kid slang.
That Cremona, he'll read whatever you put in front of him.
That's right.
It's in the chat room, I will.
Just read the chat room live. That'll be good.
Oh, God. That would go so well.
Build a scratcher, someone said. What do I look like, Shannon, who builds fly swatters and stupid crap?
I built a back scratcher once, turned it on the lathe. It was telescopic and everything.
Nice.
I had a business partner who was like scratching his back all the time, so I just broke down and made him one.
Nothing wrong with that, man. That's for sure.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with knitting. Oh, I got to get the file up, don't I? I'm a dumb head. So Mateo has croup,
Ooh,
which is fantastic.
that's fancy.
Yeah. I got to go after this and pick up his steroid prescription. So if it's not Ava with something, it's Mateo. It's like passing it around. I love the stuff.
I think all three of us, both my brothers and I, had that. We also had tubes in our ears too, which was much more difficult back then. Tubes in your ears in the 70s was not an outpatient.
Well, they were like 1-inch diameter, so
yeah, it's true.
they've gotten smaller since then.
It was galvanized pipe.
All right, hold on, son.
I used a dead blow out at least, but yeah.
Now it's a whole different story. All right, I think we're ready. I gotta pee. I'm gonna hold it. I'm gonna hold it and see if my body just absorbs it. Think that'll work.
Can kind of jaundice there, Mike.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome to the Wood Talk Weekend Show. It's time to unbutton those pants, crack open a fresh grape soda, and let the soothing sounds of Mark, Shannon, and Matt caress your ear holes.
Yeah, baby, it's Wood Talk Weekend Show number 378 for April 28th, 2017. Today we're talking about something that was brought up by George Sheehan, and it deals with local guilds. Woodworking clubs, I'm assuming, would count as part of that. And I don't even know what our experiences are between the three of us, so we'll kind of go around and talk about that, give you an idea of what you might be able to expect. So George wrote in and he asked, is it worth joining a guild? I'm fairly new to woodworking, learning through a couple of books, online content, thanks fellas, and developing skills based on the needs of the project. Is a guild worth the fee and time commitment? Now, I do want to clarify, if that question said, is the guild worth the fee and time commitment, I would say 100% without a doubt, yes.
Oh, Mark is selling again.
I am. I'm good at that from what I've heard. So we're talking about woodworking clubs, woodworking associations, or woodworking guilds. These are things, the names you'll find them as, but generally they are sort of based on your locality or statewide, citywide, just depending on the size. And you can go there and hang out with people, drink coffee, and fall asleep while people talk. Because that's kind of been my experience so far.
You know how Mark feels about the whole thing.
Okay, so let me step back and give you my history. I was a member of the San Diego Woodworkers Association. I think it's the San Diego Fine Woodworkers Association. I never attended a meeting. I only did that because I wanted the Rockler discount. And I was just, I'm just being honest. And here's the thing. I think the San Diego Woodworkers Association is one of the best, just things I've heard, read, and seen since then, one of the best in the country. So that, like, if I was going to go, I probably should have while I was there, but I didn't. So since then, I was a member of the Phoenix one for a short period of time, and I did a demonstration at one of those. And that one did strike me as your typical, very, very nice people, just are kind of there because that's what they do once a month on a Tuesday. And they drink coffee and doze off. Like, literally, not making jokes. That's what happens. So as a presenter, that's always fun. When you look out into the crowd and you see half of the people are just like drool coming down their lips, and it's a mess. But I know there are really active groups out there. So I'm curious from you guys, do you have any other experiences with your local groups or anything you've been a part of that would hopefully be better than the ones I've had so far?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Very much the same experience you've had, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
The Maryland region just doesn't have much in the way of guilds. And the one that I actually, like you, had spoken at, and then I had him up to the lumberyard and gave a big tour. To give you an idea, they meet once a month on a Tuesday at 11:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, there you go.
So
everybody can make that.
Age demographic of that particular guild.
11:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they would go to lunch afterwards.
So either you're retired or you're Cremona.
Yeah.
One or the
Who
other.
are you? What are we talking about?
But, it was...
I'm busy, man. I'm doing stuff.
Oh,
You
okay.
could definitely see, there were active members that, there were solid friendships here. Guys that, went out fishing together and worked in their shops together. They did some great charitable stuff. Like every year at the state fair, they would have a booth and they would do like demonstrations and give stuff away to kids. They would do toy drives at Christmas. So it was definitely, but it was most definitely an outlet for a retired individual, somebody that needs to get out of the house and needs some interaction. Go to the guild meeting. There really wasn't a lot of like learning going on. It was show and tell, basically show and tell for the retired set. Then there was another one that was specifically just wood turning, and I just am not a hardcore wood turner. So I never really fit into it. So I always had a very negative perception. It was the same type of thing. Go there and doze off. But then I joined SAPFM, Society for American Period Furniture Makers, which the worst thing with SAPFM is their name because it automatically pigeonholes people to going, well, I'm not into 18th century furniture, so why should I do that? And there's no question that there is a leaning towards 18th century furniture, but it's not like if you walk in there with a George Nakashima piece, they're going to go, get out of here, you
loser.
It's what I have found is a lot of really talented woodworkers. And because SAPFM's a national organization, it's got a little bit of clout. So I've been able to get really good speakers. So this is, instead of, some local schmo like Mark or myself speaking at your guild, it's like people that actually know what they're talking
People
about.
that matter.
Yeah, people that matter. If you want to learn about shellac and finishing, Don Williams, the guy who worked at the Smithsonian for 40, well, maybe not 40 years, I don't know, many years, 30 years, doing furniture restoration on, priceless pieces. He's a good guy to talk to. And he came to our guild and he talked about it. Chris Schwartz has shown up at the guild before. Freddie Roman has spoken at my SATFM before about federal inlay. It's kind of like going to Woodworking in America with your local chapter. So, and just looking around and getting, well, first of all, their annual journal magazine is fantastic. It's like a academic journal rather than a woodworking magazine, kind of similar to Mortise and Tenon magazine, if you've picked up a copy of that.
Sure.
But just looking around at what else is going on in other chapters, the same type of thing is happening elsewhere. And I think that my local chapter, it's the newest one, so it's still kind of learning what it's about. You look at some of the established ones in like New England, it's crazy what they're doing. Just really, really great speakers, great kind of outings to various sawmills and things like that. So, it really depends upon who you go to in what your experience would be.
I think that's the key. I think some of them are fantastic. Some of them are ho-hum. Some of them are downright depressing. But it's going to really depend on which one you're talking about. What about you, Matt? Have you done anything like that?
I'm a member of SAPFM as well, but I don't know if we don't have any meetings in my chapter, or I don't know about them or what. I've never been to a local meeting, but I presume
one thing you definitely shouldn't do is go to sapfm.org and go to their forum, unless you like the sound of crickets.
That's what I was gonna say. No one's ever posted anything in there.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't have any meetings here. But anyways, I enjoy the other perks of being a member of SAPFM. I'm a member of the Minnesota Woodworkers Guild, and unlike you two guys, I've had a fantastic experience with it. And it's like Tuesday nights, which is probably harder for me to go to because with kids, it's right between dinner time and bedtime. So by
The
the time
worst
I get
possible
there,
time.
I have to leave right away.
Yeah.
So I don't get to the meetings as often as I used to. They're once a month. Every meeting, there's some kind of guest speaker or a demonstration or something. It's always actually pretty good. I'm always like, oh, this is actually good. That's awesome. There's refreshments provided. I enjoy that part of it. There are giveaways every meeting. Actually, strangely enough, I don't know how this is possible. Every single meeting I've gone to, I've won something.
I think somebody likes you.
I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be random. I mean, I got a ticket with a number on it, and I still win something.
Right.
So I won the last meeting I was at. I won one of those Veritas variable burnishers. I haven't used it yet, but I have it now.
Nice.
And I won a bandsaw blade one year because actually that was a little different because I was the only person in the room that had that size saw, that size blade for my saw. So by default I won it. There's a before the meetings, there's a chance to bring in your work and kind of show it or what you're working on if you have something that's transportable, I guess. So it's what's everybody working on for half an hour before the meeting. Then there's the meeting with the demonstration, and that can go for an hour or a lot longer, depending on when they cut that person off. They also do a fall seminar every year where they bring in like an actual like instructor person for like a few days on the weekend that you can go to. That's a little extra money. And then they do the Northern Wood Show, which we just did last week, which is a great experience as well. And you also get discounts at the local lumberyard, Woodcraft, and Rockler, and all for a low price of $30 a year.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's a bargain right there.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing like we've had Wilbur Pan on the show before, and he's what is it, the something Southwest Jersey Woodworkers Guild, something like that.
Hey, I'm walking here, Guild.
Jersey. Yeah. Those guys want to talk about wood. Eh?
Let's talk about wood over here, you guys.
But that's an instance where, like, I know Wilbur just raves about it. And Bob Rosieski, if you guys remember his Logan Cabinet Shop block, was a member of that as well. And it's like the stuff they were doing, they would do group builds together and like go out to the lumberyard, and it was very communal type thing. That I've never really had that experience, so I'm envious when I hear of guilds like that. I'm supposed to actually speak at one down in Northern Virginia next week. That sounds a bit like that. Just looking at their website and looking how active they are and what they're talking about. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what that's like.
I think these things are only as good as their membership, and if there's no energy and no one's really that into it, it shows. But some of them are going to be a lot more high energy. But you mentioned the whole charity thing. That's what you described is almost the same exact format to a T that the typical one of these associations has for a meeting. And this is probably what you could expect. So you're going to start, everybody's kind of mingling, hanging out, grabbing their seats. Then somebody basically kind of catches everybody up. Then someone else comes up and gives a toy drive update that I've made 1,000 wheels this weekend or something like that. And they're always making toys. It's just a constant thing that happens. Then there is the show and tell, which can be really cool because you see people, what they've actually made, what finish they use, why they did it. That can be pretty informative. And then there's usually some level of a demo, either by a member or like you bring somebody in if you can. And then after that, it just kind of, maybe a Q&A or something and it's done. So that's kind of the standard format. But how good that experience is, I think is going to be so dependent on one group to the next. I think if you go to their website, whatever locale you're in, you could probably get a good feel for the range of activities and things that will come with that membership. So before you even become a member, see what they do, what's on the schedule. And I think you'll get an idea of what you can probably expect from it.
Or even go to a meeting. I think most of them will let you go to a meeting just to check
free,
it out.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
So,
can't hurt.
Well, and you say it's as good as their membership, but I think honestly it's as good as their leadership. Because
Sure.
I've seen guilds do really, really well, and then that person's term expires and the next person kind of talked into it and things just start to go downhill because it's a thankless job. You can imagine herding cats to kind of organize an event like that. So the ones that I've seen that are really good, usually there's a person making that happen. So to all of you out there running guilds, God bless you. You're
Yeah, it does seem like a lot of
doing
work.
good work. It's a thankless job.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, hopefully that answers your question to some extent, George, or gives you an idea what you can do to find out what your local guild is like. Hopefully it's a good one that you can enjoy. And hey, if it's not a good one and you want it to be, get involved. Go there. See if you can help and try and make it better because that's really what it comes down to.
Just go to handtoolschool.net.
Or, yeah,
sign up.
There are plenty of places you could waste your money online at. That's fine.
I'm bad at the selling thing. I had to take lessons from Mark.
Yeah, you do. It's terrible. All right. Well, that's our weekend show. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.
happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Hey guys.
That's the
Let's
Eeyore.
do woodworking stuff.
Eeyore response. Okay. All right. You know what Nicole reminded me of the other day that I missed when talking about.
Happy birthday, Nicole.
Oh yeah, it was her birthday yesterday.
Hey, she's
Oh
listening.
yeah.
She's not
not.
listening. Believe me, she's definitely not listening. Nor will she. Oh yeah, so she reminded me that the thing I missed on the anniversary show is like my favorite moment from the past. Wasn't so much a moment, but something that happened on a yearly basis was Matt quitting the show. This was something that we kept from the audience, but it would happen at the end of summer every year as we moved into the fall. We called it his manopause moment or his matapause moment. And he would just go through, he's like, I don't know. I don't think I have time. I don't really want to do this anymore. It's just not that fun. And I would have to talk him down every time.
talk him off a ledge.
Yeah, exactly. Until finally the
It was,
job
it was
changed.
how I knew I had arrived as a host when I got roped into the conversation.
Yeah.
And found out that this has been going on for years.
Yeah. I would give him free therapy and try to, calm him down a little bit. Yeah, it was pretty funny. It's good stuff. Okay, so exotic wood. So remember, this will just be a quick one since it's the email extra. So let's remember it's a short recording. Hey, thanks everybody in the chat room. Appreciate your hanging out. I see Bill is in there, and Sheldon, and I see Bryce and Tyler and Jason. It's romper room. You like that?
Took me back.
And there's Cremona. What is romper room?
I think I'm doing over here on my phone all the time.